If you look at any of my larger scale builds, you'll see the exact same details in every single one. So I'm taking it upon myself to create 100 completely different decorations to improve my building skills. And welcome to the platform. This is where all 100 of the detail builds will be constructed. Speaking of, I have a massive, stinky, smelly list of different types of things I'll be creating multiple builds for. Now, the first and most egregious example of mine is lampposts. I don't think I've ever built a design different to this one right here. So right off the rip, let's try something different, maybe with a lightning rod. So I think I'll still employ the classic wall here, and then we can make a kind of design like that, just for something a little bit different there. But then when it transitions to the actual lantern is where it gets a little bit harder. All right, well, I actually do really like just this. I really do. Okay. Now, I really do just like this simple design, so I'm actually going to count this as build number stinking 1. Let's go ahead and copy this over to the next build. I don't know. Now, I did just have an idea where we could add another one of these on top, and then maybe like, instead of doing what we'd usually do like this, maybe just have it more focused onto one side. We could even do something like this with a fence gate and a fence, and then have a lantern like that. I feel like it's too overhangy, like there's too much like unsupported. So maybe we could have some trapdoors on top of that like that. And I've actually just had an idea for a third design, an even crazier one, where we can have like a kind of planter box maybe surrounding it. And then, I mean, we could put anything in here, like maybe some grass, put some flowers, some azaleas might actually look really nice. Yeah, that actually looks sweet. I really do like that. Okay, next I think we should move on to some fence designs, because lately, man, I have been keeping it way too simple and literally just building fences like this. It doesn't get more boring than that. So I think it's time to come up with another design that just elevates this a little bit more. And I think the best way to do that is to just simply move this up one block and add something below. Like even something just as simple as like just adding more random various details underneath. Like this just elevates it so much, and it's so easy to do as well. Like there's just no reason not to elevate your fence game. You know what I'm saying? We could even like turn these into some larger pillars, and to make sure that we like mobs still can't get over this, we can put some slabs on top of these, or even trapdoors as well. We'll keep the mobs out. And I mean, dude, we can go so much further with this. We can add signs on front, but dude, honestly, just keeping it simple like that is awesome. Now I would like to make a stone design as well, just for something a little bit different, like maybe a slightly more fortified variant. And then of course for lighting as well, we could actually spruce these up by adding some lanterns on top of those fences, and then on top of all the pillars here as well. I mean, there's an infinite ways that we could expand upon these fence designs, but honestly, it's so much better already than what I've been doing. So I'm happy with that. Now, I don't know, just a random idea that I've had, kind of similar to lamppost, but instead of a lamppost, I want like, I don't know, like a banner post. It's hard to explain, but like something we could do. Okay, I think it might have to be a little bit bigger than this. Okay, maybe not with just regular ass wall. That's a bit whack. And then, yeah, just something like that. I don't even know, like that's cool. I like that. Maybe even let's replace this with this, just so it's a little bit more, yeah, makes a little bit more sense. And we could honestly even move that down one too. Like that's just such like a cool like thing for a village or a city or something. Almost like the village's like flag or like color scheme, I guess. We can even come up with like a smaller design variant as well. Just, oh, instead of just focusing on the front, we could just have the color scheme go around the entire sides like that. That's sick. Yeah, dude, that's actually sick. Now in a very similar vein to that, let's maybe even make some flag designs too. But with my flags, I really do love having them kind of go back and forwards. It makes it look like they're actually blowing in the wind. So yeah, just something like that, although this does look a little bit big for the size of the stalk here. So maybe this would be on top of a building or something. But yeah, I feel like this is definitely a detail I need to do more of. Now, another thing that I really do not do enough of is custom trees. Like these can go absolutely crazy in enhancing any kind of like landscape or village like area or anything like that. So I definitely, yeah, like my custom tree game is absolute crud. Like I still use this one design that I learned like a very long time ago from one of my older friends that I used to play with. And it's where you kind of make a custom spruce tree like this. And essentially you just like randomize the heights of stuff. So like maybe you would do it like this on one side, and then essentially repeat that along all of the sides, and then even just have something like that. Now it's quite a big, like, I mean, it's not that big of a custom tree, but it is rather simple. Like that's almost just the freaking vanilla spruce tree, dude. So let's try another design. Something a little bit more extravagant, I reckon.
Yeah, I don't know, dude. I don't think that's looking too good. I just threw some fences down and some leaves on top, and that looks absolutely whack-a-diddly. And so honestly, I think the way to make this... My God, my son is laughing in his TV show. So honestly, I think the way to make this better is to just keep it even simpler. So maybe let's just remove all of this diagonal crap and just kind of add like this central bulb. You know, bulb of leaves like that. That's quite literally it. Like that's looking good. And of course, I think some grass around this would look sweet as well. And that is quite literally it. And well, that's gonna make up the first 10 builds and the first row. So I think it is now time to shift up to the next row with a couple of rock/boulder designs. This is something that I really do not do a lot of at all. And it's honestly such a great detail that you can add to like almost any build. Like even something as simple as this, like I'm not gonna count that as a build. We'll make some bigger versions.
And so the key to getting a decent looking rock design, especially a rather small one, is to smoothen it out with some stairs and slabs. Those blocks are also great for adding irregularities as well. And so with my first rock done, I moved on to a more cobbly, overgrown design meant maybe for a jungle or near water. I then just started going crazy, moving on to a couple hedge designs I wanted to try out, as well as a fancy raised planter box with some flowers. Now onto the big boy, much larger variant. I continued using quite a lot of shelves to build out the shape, adding grass and flowers, as well as a central lantern. I then began on a couple variations on some garden staples, starting with a larger wheelbarrow first, and then I played around with a bit of a cart design I wouldn't usually make. After chucking some details on top, I worked on two quite large but detailed crop farms for our 19th and 20th designs. Okay, so we've done kind of like a village essentials row, we've now done a garden essentials row. Next up, I want to move on to some like kind of walkway pathway stuff. There we go, as very professionally illustrated right here. So I have thoroughly been enjoying using these 3 blocks for like texturing pathways. That being coarse dirt, granite, and polished granite. But something that I used to do a really long time ago, but I don't really do anymore, is actually adding like depth to this texture. So something you can do is you can grab stairs and you can just add these in like this, pretty much, to get like a whole layer of depth added if you're wanting a more kind of like rugged looking pathway. So you can see how much like extra depth that adds. And something else as well is if your path kind of like matches any of the buttons here, which mine doesn't really. I mean, maybe we could get away with like some kind of wood, but we can also use stone kind of just in general. It looks like a little, obviously a little stone block, and you could probably get away with throwing that on top of any pathway. And yeah, that just adds like a little extra depth to something that usually would just be completely flat and a little bit boring. Okay, for this next one, I feel like a more stone kind of built up pathway is going to be nice. And so my favorite blocks for these kind of stone pathways is andesite stone and stone bricks. It's just like the perfect blend of like rugged and more like established kind of blocks. I don't know if that makes any sense at all. But yeah, we end up with something a little bit like that. And so I might want to make this a little bit more like a medieval kind of themed. And a good way, I think, to do that is like, well, if you look at any like old medieval pathway things, they usually have these like big kind of gutters where like water is just usually poured into, I guess. So let's maybe add something like that along the sides. And that is pretty much like one detail in itself, but we'll add on to this. I reckon what we could do is maybe add like a little bit of a sewer like entrance, like somewhere this water actually goes down to. And so this might actually be a little bit harder than I thought. I'm gonna play around with this for a little bit and try and come up with a design. Hold on. Okay, I tried a bunch of designs. I felt like slimming it down is actually what really helped here. And honestly, I think that's kind of cool. And I reckon something like that would be great. Obviously, we'd have like houses and stuff behind this, which would make it look a lot nicer. I don't know, that's just like a kind of more unique medieval pathway design there. Okay, for this next one, I've grabbed our existing pathway and we're going to be doing a little bit of a park bench. So my idea for this one is to get some extinguished campfires. Actually, I think this would look better with the fires going this way, so let's do that. Then for the backing, we're gonna get some spruce doors like so, and then you could honestly leave it like that, but on the sides, I feel like some barrels would be kind of cool. Now, I do feel like we need to extend these trapdoors across, so this is gonna be quite a large bench. You could even make this too wide on the campfires as well. And then what we could do, maybe throw a lantern on one side and then a flower pot with maybe a bit of a cornflower inside, and yeah, that's a nice
little bench there. Now we can elevate this further by adding another detail, a little bit of a semi-custom tree. So what we could do is just place a tree like this, and then we can grab some logs and some leaves and just kind of make this a little bit more nice. Something that I really love doing is adding an extra little branch on the side and throwing a lantern on there. What we might even do is actually extend that out a bit more, and we can add some extra leaves to kind of support that branch there, and then actually place it like that. Something else we can do to make this a little bit more custom is add some leaves on the bottom like this. Could maybe even trim down the front a little bit and just kind of randomize these leaves a little bit more. And yeah, that gives you like a pretty nice looking bit of a custom tree with not too much work. Like we can just work off of the base tree, you know what I'm saying? And that gives us something pretty nice there. Now, a classic that a lot of people like to do is have like a kind of mixture of leaves and fences. I really do like this as well. It's like a very cheap and easy way to make a little bit more of like an enclosed feeling pathway. Dude, I think, oh, that's so nice. It just adds so much extra to it, you know? But we can elevate this even further. We can maybe extend some of these into like a bit more of a raised kind of lamppost. We could definitely get some grass and some like, you know, flowers added up in here too. And my absolute favorite thing would to be just kind of scatter a couple of random little storage like things here and there. It is very cheap. Like you could space these apart quite a lot, and it just adds like that extra little bit of life into your pathway. Just having these, obviously you don't have to use them, okay? But it's just some great extra kind of fortified decoration. I don't know. Moving on to the next 5 builds, I wanted to do paths above the water, bridges, with this first one being an elevated bit of a dock design. Moving on, I next wanted a very cheap and simple arched wooden bridge, which I'm super happy with. For the next bridge, I wanted something super slim and narrow, which did end up needing a few redesigns until I was mostly happy with it. I then tried my hand at a small arched stone bridge with a grate at the bottom to let the water pass through. Once I finished that one off, I then built the biggest bridge yet, complete with a leaf roof, which also needed a few redesigns until I was happy with it. Moving straight on to builds 31 to 40, I wanted to do some general deco, things you can just put anywhere, starting with a simple barrel elevated with some signs. Next up, I had the idea to create a more vertical pile of various logs for firewood or storage or whatever purpose. I then built out the more classic log pile, except elevated it with more details like campfires and slabs. I then felt a little crafting / storage station would be cute and honestly a super useful decoration to have. Keeping with that theme, I decided to build out a bit of a smelting station too, this one being a bit larger but also holding some storage and crafting. Next up was a tree stump idea I had, which I do like but probably could have turned out a bit better. I then wanted to try some other spins on the classic houseplant design, replacing the composter with other cheap items that also look good. I then built out a very simple ore pile, enhanced with the, well, not so new raw ore blocks. And next was my idea for a little display / storage for items commonly taking up space in my inventory. And to finish up the general deco row, I built out a large and lavish campsite perfect to add basically anywhere. Okay, and with the 4th row all done, I want to actually revisit row 1 with our village essentials, because I have a lot more ideas for things for like villages and towns and stuff. Okay, so for my first design, I wanted to make a variation of this lamppost. So let's actually duplicate this all onto the other side. And what I wanted to do was basically replace all of this stuff here with some hanging signs. This is my idea for like a village kind of like signpost, I guess. What we could even do is add some signs maybe down here as well, pointing to like other directions. And yeah, this is what it might look like once there is like, you know, some text added on there. I think this sign is actually probably my favorite one. Like, I think just the words look really good there. And yeah, I ran out of ideas, so that one's blank. Now, another design might even be something like this. If you have like 4 directions, you don't want to display them down here because admittedly, this does look a little bit weird. So it might even be nicer to have something like this instead. And this could be at like a crossroads or something and maybe right in the middle. Okay, I'm just gonna have to build that out real quick. There we go. Pretty much just something a little bit like that. Now, a detail I really love but never usually bother building because it's just such a pain in the ass is a bit of a crane design. So I want to come up with something that's very simple and easy and quick to build and doesn't use some ridiculous things like grindstones and stuff. You know, I mean, they're not that expensive, but like, it's just a pain in the ass having to go craft stuff for it. You know what I'm saying? So, this is kind of cool. Although I feel like this stalk is a little bit too chunky and that's a little bit too thin. So let's try out some walls like this. Yeah, I think that's nice. That fits that middle ground perfectly. The only problem is my blocks are going to connect up to this, which is, it's always a bit of a pain, isn't it? Unless if we use like stairs or something, but that just looks weird. Okay, well, this is my final design. I couldn't figure out anything for the counterweight, so I've just left it. And honestly, I think it looks fine. I mean, it's small enough to the point where a counterweight might be a little bit silly. But yeah, very simple little design, doesn't really need that many different blocks. And I don't know, I feel like maybe it's comically small, but you could probably just extend the size of this to be a little bit more realistic. Maybe let's make it like 2 blocks higher, and that'll probably allow us to extend these out a little bit more as well. So, you know, you can kind of just make this whatever size you want. And with that as well, we can even add on our counterweight too, or just something a little bit like that. Now it does look a little bit ridiculous now at this size. This is probably when you'd be wanting to add like more details, you know, maybe even something like this. But yeah, once you're getting to this point, you kind of want to beef it up and add more stuff. So yeah, it depends on what size you're wanting. There you go. There's my crane. Okay, we're gonna have to speed this the hell up. The next thing I want to do is make a little bit of an improved market stall design. Now, this is pretty much the one that I always build, like this. I usually have the front be a bit higher and add our wall blocks. Oh, bro, I should be using the snapshot with the freaking wall stairs and slabs. Oh my god. Okay, well, we're not gonna be able to do that, unfortunately, because, yeah, we've already started this world in a different version, and I simply cannot be bothered changing it. So I want to make a little bit more of like a robust kind of market stall with like, I don't know, something like this. Maybe change the front and back, like little middle parts to something like that. Oh, dude, this would look so good with slabs, like wall slabs. Oh, brother, that's actually sad. And something we can do as well is utilize the old shelves. So let's maybe do, no, that doesn't really make sense, does it? I feel like the shelves would probably be like up here. And then maybe on here, we could even have like item frames or something, just for a little bit of like a different display. And I don't know, I guess this shop is selling like blue and purple things. So we're just gonna like, I don't know, cram all these full of random stuff. I don't know. I'm sure there's a lot more things I could find, but I'm trying to get through this, man. We're not even halfway done, so let's get to the next one. Okay, I went a little bit crazy and I made 2 more market stalls. So we got a bit more of like an open plan one where people are meant to like more kind of walk through and, you know, browse the wares. And then another bit of more of like a lean-to kind of style one. And yeah, another kind of walk-in one with a bunch of pots kind of strewn around. I like these. Again, the key thing here is that these are really like simple and cheap to build. I don't know, that's just kind of my theme with like life in Minecraft in general. So yeah, I'm happy with those. Next, I want to try my hand at a couple of fountain designs. I want to start with something very small and very simple here. So we're going to utilize our stairs here to keep it small but detailed. Something a little bit like that. Let's fill in the basin here, and then we're going to add our little central stem again, and we'll have probably just something like that. So let's fill this in with water. We'll have our water spurting out from here, and then the key bloody detail here, a little bit of a lantern. Bang, dude. That is a nice and simple water fountain. Now we could of course elevate this further by adding like, you know, some wooden accents. The classic signs with some trapdoors like this would go pretty stinking hard, but I'm gonna leave it nice and basic like that because I think that still looks great. All right, now onto a little bit of a larger design. I want to do something like pretty circular here. So let's go ahead and create a little bit of a circle. Okay, this is gonna be quite large, and that is a very weird looking circle. Ugh, I do not like that. Okay, you know what? After playing with the shape tool, I really don't like, you know, a normal circle shape here. So I'm gonna stick with this one. And now what I think we could do to make this look a lot nicer is actually change these over to some stairs. And I'm gonna have these facing outwards as opposed to inwards for this one, just because I think it'll make the shape a little bit nicer. So give me a moment here. Okay, there is our larger basin done. I'm pretty happy with that. And now what this larger basin will allow us to do is make a more intricate kind of stalk stem thing. So something that I want to try is have like a multi-tiered design. So I'm hoping that this is going to flow the way I want it. Not quite. I didn't want this kind of stream at the front here. So, oh, we can actually fix that by just doing that. Okay, I've ended up changing it over to this. I think that looks quite nice. I think something we could definitely do to upgrade this is actually move these down and maybe even add walls on top of here. Oh God, and I've messed it all up. No, brother. That's not good. And yeah, I was just gonna add one lantern up on here, but I think what could look even nicer is having 4 of the bastards on every side of this wall. And yeah, there we go. A little bit more of an extravagant water fountain. Okay, well, we've only got 2 spots left in this row and not a lot of room. So I'm gonna build a couple of bench designs. I've still got a lot more village ideas, by the way. So I'm probably gonna have to get to a 3rd row of these eventually. But yeah, I really wanna make like some just different benches, and man, it is very hard to come up with designs that haven't been done before. So what I'm going to try and employ here is using a couple of shelves, and dude, that is so simple but so nice. Like this part of the top shelf looks actually like a, you know, like a handrest. It just looks weird that the back is the same height as the front. So what we could maybe do to fix that is use some trap doors. I just feel like that makes it too tall, you know what I'm saying? But we can just market it as like a bit of an extravagant bench design. And maybe for the last one over here, let's get something more modest built. Let's maybe go back to the campfires. I really do love that as the seat. It looks a little bit more of like a rugged design. And maybe let's employ the shelves only on the sides for those handrests, armrest, whatever it's called. But now I just need to figure out a back for this. Okay, well, let me tell you, it is very hard to innovate on something as simple as a bench, so I'm settling with that. I've never built this specifically before, and maybe I might just start in the future, which is the whole point of this video. Delving straight into row 6, I continued with yet another village essentials row, except these being larger structures but still decorations, starting with a couple of different well designs here. After finishing up the second design, I felt another good detailing structure would be a small watchtower, perfect to add alongside built-up walls or near town entrances. I also wanted a wooden, more rickety variant of a watchtower, which turned out almost like a hunting stand, but I mean, those are essentially watchtowers, aren't they? Continuing with the tower theme, something I've never actually built before is a water tower, this one in a medieval theme using a bunch of barrels and trapdoors. For the next one, I tried a bit of a foundry forge thing using mud blocks, and it turned out kinda weird. Now for some structures that actually have a use, some bloody nether portals, of course. I started out with a rather small wooden design, but also got a more established stone variant built too. This one was pretty difficult, being a mini windmill. I tried a lot of different designs until settling on this one, which I'm kinda happy with. And to finish up light, I felt a charcoal mound is a super cool and unique medieval detail, so I built out a simple one. Okay, dude, and check that out. The platform is coming along beautifully. We've just finished off the 6th row, giving us 3 more to go. Yeah, that's like 70 builds now, so we've got 3 more rows. And my idea for this next row is, okay, it's almost basically a Village Essentials 4, but these are more like kind of general builds that you should be able to use in like a lot of different ways. Yeah, pretty much a general deco number 2. And with the first build, I want to build up a little bit of a storage shed. So I've actually got an idea for how this would look in my head, and it's going to be like a very, very small kind of like almost basically house build. So yeah, pretty much something a little bit like this. And I want like a door that is open. So that's going to be, it's going to be challenging, isn't it? You know what? I might even just open this up way wider and have something like this going. And then I'm thinking for the roof, we could use deep slate. We could either have a kind of roof like this, like just an angled one, or I was thinking we have one like basically a house roof, something like that. Yeah, I think that should work pretty well for a shed here. Okay, so there's our roof and the walls done. I do want to add like maybe a little bit of an archway kind of entrance like this. And then we do need to add in a little bit of a ceiling just to fix that up. That's looking good. Now, sheds don't really have windows, do they? So we're not going to bother with windows for this, but we definitely do need to figure out like an interesting kind of array of things to put inside this. Right, well, I definitely think the first thing here is just going to be the classic wheelbarrow design. We can just kind of wedge this all the way at the back, and that kind of takes up the whole back wall. What we can do is actually add a shelf here to add some stuff on top. So I've just grabbed some random stuff here. I'm going to place in maybe a pot plant, a couple of turtle eggs to look like some, I don't know, random detritus, and then also a happy gas, because why not? Well, actually, this is a dried gas. And then I also found a dried kelp block we could maybe stuff. Oh, I don't know if this is really going to fit actually, but it kind of looks like, you know, like grass clippings. I don't know why that would be in a shed, but I don't know, maybe even there could actually work well. And then just to fill up the rest of the front, maybe just some more flower pots, maybe a little something like that. Now, we don't really have a lantern yet, so we could probably just throw one in at the top, or we could even put it there if we wanted. A little bit of a weird spot. Let's maybe make a little table for it like that. And yeah, there we go. There is like a little bit of a storage shed design. A rather simple build, but again, a nice little detail. Okay, and this next one might be more akin to something, you know, that would be in a village. And this is going to be like kind of a training yard, like a shooting training, I don't know, man. So this is going to be the line where you kind of stand at, and then at the back here, let's maybe get like a row of slabs, and then we'll place in a couple of armor stands. Okay, maybe one armor stand, and maybe like actually, maybe we should put the target closer. We can put a target maybe here. Okay, this is pissing me off being 4 wide. Let's fix this up. Hold on. There we go. Now we can put this in the middle. We could put the target maybe here, and then have another target here. There we go. Then we throw some leather armor onto this. I definitely think the ground could use a bunch of coarse dirt, and maybe even actually some of this short dry grass. Let's see if this looks nice. Yeah, that's perfect. It's just like little tufts of grass. That's sweet. Dude, I wish the regular grass just had those variants as well. Like, come on, man, just add it in. Okay, maybe off to the side, we could actually have our little storage thing that holds all of the, you know, the equipment. So let's get a little frame built out, and then we'll add in a couple of shelves, maybe like this. And then I'm thinking, I don't know, something like this. Yeah, that's kind of cool. And then in here we can add all types of different weaponry, like, I don't know, a couple of bows and a crossbow. And then on this side, maybe just a bunch of arrows. If you wanted this to be a bit more practical, we can even change this out to a barrel. And in here you could just add, you know, a bunch more stuff that you would need for your firing range purposes. Obviously, this would have a backdrop and everything as well. It just kind of depends on, you know, what village kind of thing you'd have set up. But I mean, a good kind of general purpose one would just be a bunch of hay bales back behind here like this. And yeah, I think that is a pretty cool looking bit of a firing range. Okay, next on my list is a little bit of a mine entrance design. And I've just had a pretty cool like idea into my head. And that is to use some of these double stacked trapdoors for something a little bit different. So I'm gonna go ahead and clone this over to about yay. And then up at the top, we could add in the classic slabs like so. And man, I'm not even kidding, like that, even just something as simple as that is gonna be pretty cool for a mine entrance. Well, a way we could elevate this a little bit further is using some stairs here just to add a little extra pizzazzle. And oh man, like, I kind of like the simplicity of that. Like, it's so simple and basic, but it still works really well. Okay, I've ended up elevating it a little bit further, added a slab here, a lantern, and some random details. And honestly, I'm happy with that. It is very simple, but you know what? We're gonna build a bunch more mine entrances, so let's get into the next one. Okay, for the next one, I do want to try something a little bit more built up and almost like it's, you know, part of like it's like an actual building. So I reckon we should get something like this going. And then up at the top here, ooh, what we could maybe do is actually extend this out and have a whole nother layer of basically like living quarters or like, you know, mine managing place. I don't know. Yeah, so you can kind of see where I'm trying to go with this. Give me a second here, just let me figure out some wall designs and stuff. Okay, and this is the final design that I've come up with. Obviously, I haven't built out the whole thing because this would just kind of be attached into the side of an existing mountain. I just don't really have one here, and it's going to take up too much space. So that's, yeah, that's the second mine entrance. I do think we definitely need to get a third one though. Hold on. Okay, and for my final mine entrance, I've kind of gone with a middle ground between the two, and we're going with something like this. I've tried to make it more unique. Instead of just putting, you know, this crossbeam here, I've inset it by one and added the entrance kind of on the next layer. And I don't know, it does look kind of weird. I did also originally have a strip of trapdoors here as well, just for something quite unique. But yeah, I don't really like how that looks. I mean, this itself does look kind of weird, and I'm not sure if I like it, but it is something different, and that's what we're here to bloody try, is different things. Okay, for this next one, I've built up this. Yeah, which does look kind of weird, but I want to try making some construction scaffolding. So this is meant to be like, you know, the side of some houses in your village or something. Obviously it looks like poo right now. It's not the main focus of the build, okay? Yeah, so I want to build up like, I don't know, a couple of fences, and then obviously you're not really meant to actually be able to access these. So obviously we could just use standard old scaffolding. That's not really the point here. I want something that looks a lot more like scaffolding in real life, I guess. So we can try something like that. The only problem is, of course, that isn't going to frickin' connect up. So what we could maybe do is replace these with some stairs so that it does actually connect. The only problem is that this isn't really looking like scaffolding anymore, is it? Okay, and after playing around for a little while, here's the two designs I've come up with. Obviously, you can still get something really good with just the old scaffolding blocks, and I've just gone for a more kind of randomized look with this. And then I tried something with the copper bars and some trap doors, something a little bit more, I don't know, purpose built looking, a little bit more established, different from bamboo as well, which can be quite nice. But yeah, that might be just a nice little detail to add alongside some buildings that are like maybe under construction or even finished buildings, just to add some extra detail to the walls. Okay, changing to a little bit of a smaller scale, I feel like a notice board is a definitely pretty cool like thing to have in maybe like a village, or even as like a to-do list for you in your like survival area. And honestly, I feel like the back of shelves is like the perfect kind of texture for this. So obviously, let's head to the other side, and bang, dude, that is looking sick. The only thing I haven't looked at is if signs kind of line up nicely. Oh, they actually do. That is so nice, having those little like metal bits up at the top. It almost looks like it's pinned like to the board. I don't know how to explain that, but that's really cool. Maybe to get our depth back a little bit, we could add some trap doors on the front here and maybe here. I don't know if I really like that though. Yeah, it doesn't really look more like a notice board then. It'd be nice if these shelves were like in the middle instead of right at the back. Oh, it'd be so much better. But I mean, we wouldn't be able to put signs on it then. So maybe what we should definitely do is just add some kind of like extra depth at the front like that. Then maybe let's add some slabs or even trap doors at the top. Maybe even add some slabs at the back here. And there we go. That is just a nice little bit of like a notice board slash to-do list thing. And there you go. There's just a couple of examples, you know, like some to-do things. We've got some completed things. And I don't know, just, yeah, you know, villages do stink. So I think that's fine. Now for another smaller detail, I feel like firewood storage is always such a cool, like, thing to have. Whether that being like under your house or like anywhere basically. And it's always super easy to do as well. Just literally chuck down a bunch of various log types in various different, like, you know, lengths like this. Can even throw some slabs and stuff there. Actually, you know what? Screw the slabs. Holy crap, campfires are way better. Now, obviously, the only problem with this is that you need a lot of different log types for this to, like, actually look good. But I mean, you can definitely just build this out with oak, spruce, and dark oak. Even just oak and spruce, as long as you're stripping and alternating them as much as you can, it'll still look really good. Just make sure to throw in a bunch of campfires as well, of course, and bang, there you have it. Now that could be added, yeah, like anywhere, basically. On the side of the road, under a, like, you know, under or next to a house like this, obviously maybe you'd have a roof over it or something like that. And yeah, that is a little bit of some firewood storage. And now for the last one in this row, I want to build something that I probably should have done by now, and that is a bit of a boat design. And now this is a design I have used a lot of times in the past. I just want to quickly showcase how to make it nice and easily. So what we're going to do is get 3 stairs in a row like this, and then we're going to place some slabs in front, and then get another lot of stairs on the other side like so. Then towards the front of the boat, we're going to add in some upside down stairs like this, then a regular stair facing that way, then another stair on the back of this, and then a slab in front like so. Now the back is going to be pretty much the exact same thing, except we're just going to have the stair block like so. And there you go. That is a very nice base for a boat like that. Nice and super simple. Then to build up the mast, we're going to add in a barrel. Then of course add in some fences for our mast. And well, there's a couple different ways you could do this. You could have something like that. It's a little bit small. So what you could do is extend this out with some fence gates and then add 3 like so. And honestly, that is perfect. But you can elevate this even further with some more details, like an empty flower pot up here is a nice little detail. And then you could always finish up with a little bit of a chest at the back as well. You could even add this like on the side as well if you wanted. And there you go. That's a super simple little detailed boat design. Heading straight into the next row, where I wanted to keep it nature themed, starting with a bit of a mini waterfall design, perfect to add basically anywhere. Next up was my rendition of a pond design, adding all the things I could think of, like plenty of leaves, seagrass, lily pads, and everything I'd want in a pond. I then tried my hand at decorating a beach, adding things like driftwood, tufts of beach grass, little stones, and birch pressure plates as elevated bits of sand. Next up was a ruined tower overtaken by nature with a bit of a custom tree in the center. I felt a cave entrance was in order, so I carved one out of the side of a big rock and decorated it as best as I could. I did also want to revisit the tree stump idea with a much larger one, including plenty of slabs and fences for smaller detail. This next one is my favorite way to grow and showcase glowberries set up to look like a hop farm. I did also want to try a nature style entrance, which went through a couple redesigns until I was decently happy with it. Next up was a bit of a flower pot showcase stand thing with 2 tiers and a backing of leaves. And to finish up the nature row, I built out 2 different, more intricate pot plant designs. Okay, and that is 90 builds all done. That puts us at the final row, where I want to actually change pace quite a bit and do some interior designs. I was primarily wanting to keep everything exterior, but honestly, I have completely run out of ideas, okay? I've created 90 builds at this point, and yeah, honestly, I would love a change of pace as well, doing some interiors. So let's get stuck into it. Okay, and so to challenge myself, I'm going to be building all of these interiors in an even number. So as you can see, I've got a 2 block space here, and then we have our pillar and then another 2 block, as well as on the sides. Usually I would try and always build everything in odd numbers just to make things easier, but I'm challenging myself, okay? And so for our first area, I want to start off light with a little bit of a storage area. This one I feel like is actually going to be quite easy, because what we could do is add a strip of barrels straight down the center, and that nicely gives us some space here to add our chests. Now with storage, I usually do like keeping these, like, you know, as efficient as possible. There are times when I would make this even more efficient and just put, you know, the chests all on the side like this, but I've honestly been steering away from that just because I don't really like the way it looks that much anymore. I feel like just having straight on chests like that, it's a timeless bloody classic, isn't it? And so because we do have such a confined space, it's a little bit hard to detail this. But what we could definitely try and do is maybe get rid of a couple of barrels. We can add a stair under this one as a kind of shelf, and then what we can do is either put a lantern here, but realistically we'd probably have this in the ceiling ceiling, so we could even put a flower pot here and just add something to nicely brighten up the space a little bit. Now, realistically, your interior is going to be a little bit bigger than this, so you could add things like some extra little tables on the sides. It's going to look a little bit cramped in my version here, but, you know, it works. And I mean, we can throw anything on there. I just feel like, you know, I really love these amethyst buds, and we can probably just throw a lantern on the other one. And there we go. That is a little bit of a cute bit of a storage area. All right, on to the next one. Let's get a little bit of some smelting built out. And I want to try something like this, like a little bit of an L-shaped type of thing. So on the bottom, we can just get our full array of regular furnaces, and then maybe all the way up at the top here, we can get our blast furnaces and our smokers. In this corner, I felt it'd be really cool to have like a little pile of kind of firewood, just something like that. Now, I feel like a great block to kind of have in these corners would be some polished andesite. We can even maybe extend out our L shape to maybe about yay. I don't exactly know what I'm gonna add there just yet, but I mean, on top of the furnaces is always a great place for, you guessed it, more extinguished campfires. You can also add in maybe a bit of a lantern and maybe even a pressure plate to look like a bit of a stove top. Then we could definitely add in a little bit of some wood accents here by adding some shelves under all of this stuff. Yeah, that's kind of left me with this. I really don't know what to do with this area here. You know what? I think we're gonna go back to barrels. The timely classic bloody stinking barrels. Just the strippagus gallipagus of them like that. You know, it's a really good place to store your like unsmelted items, your fuel, you know, anything else. And you know what we could even do in here is add a little bit of a shelf and get, you guessed it, some more extinguished campfires. Okay, maybe that's a little bit ridiculous. Let's maybe get a flower pot instead with whatever the hell one of these is. An open eye blossom. I've never seen that in my life, bro. All right, next on my list is a little bit of an enchanting area. I'm kind of hoping that this is going to be big enough. We're gonna have to put our enchanting table here. Yeah, this is actually the perfect size. So, you know, instead of just getting something super boring like this, I mean, it does still look good. It's just not really that, you know, crazy creative. Okay, so what we could try and do is remove these. Something I do want to make sure is that this is, oh god, nowhere near level 30. That's not good. Let's get the corners added in. Of course, we're one short. That's such a pain in the butt. Okay, we're gonna do that instead. Something we can also do at the top is add in some chiseled bookshelves just for, you know, a little bit of different texture. We can actually get those added in this row as well, but we have to leave the bottom two rows as is, unfortunately. Now, I would love for this area to be a little bit bigger. You know what? We're actually going to extend this out just slightly so that we have more room to work with. Because what I want to do is maybe add some lecterns here just for something interesting. Maybe close those off on the sides with some trap doors. And then I'm definitely feeling like some chests up here are going to fit in quite nicely. Now, what we could even do is remove this and get something there. Maybe I usually love getting flower pots with like some kind of purple flower. Bro, that's not purple. You know what? We're gonna go with a freaking warped fungus. Let's chuck that bad boy right there. And then something I also love doing is getting some purple wool around the enchanting table just to make it feel a little bit more cozy. Now, once again, the lantern would be hanging like right about here. So let's actually get that just placed in. Just imagine that's like a ceiling. And then, yeah, that is pretty much it. We do have this area here that we could, yeah, I don't know. I think I'll just keep that open, to be honest. Let's maybe add some shelves under those, and that is pretty much going to be it for an enchanting area. All right, and on to the next interior, which is going to be a little bit of a crafting area. Something I'd really like to do is figure out how we could incorporate a painting into this design. Don't exactly know how we're going to do it, but I'm going to try. So let's actually get maybe a 2x2. Okay, let's get a 2x2 painting on this side here and try and, oh, okay, maybe let's grab a fence and we can use that as our divider, and that kind of gives us this side here to work with for crafting. So let's place a crafting tape. Oh, the annoying thing is that's going to connect up. Okay, let's maybe keep the crafting, like the full blocks on this side, and then over here we'll have the, you know, the non-full bloody blocks, okay? So then what we can do is add, maybe we'll get a shelf up here for the rest of our blocks. Oh god, the only problem is it's kind of hard to fit everything when it's this small. But there we go. That works. I mean, it's a little bit hard to access the smithing table, but it's there. And then, well, I think the perfect kind of way to set this up would be a pot plant here. A little bit of a lantern right here. Let's get something interesting in here, like a cherry sapling. And then, dude, like that. That's cool. I like how like simple that is. It's not very crazy, but I really love the simplistic kind of, you know, this divider with this. That's really cool. I feel like we definitely need more. So maybe we could line this with some shelves. Oh, I just feel like it's too much though. And if we put a shelf there, yeah, it's gonna look a bit weird. Maybe let's try some oak shelves just so it blends in a little bit more. Nah, dude, honestly, I really love that. Just so, it's so simplistic and it looks awesome. I would really love to add shelves in here. I mean, if we had a little bit more space, we definitely could. But dude, I really do like that. Okay, next one is one that I don't think I've ever built in survival before, but I would really love to, and that is a little bit of a brewing area. The way I used to always build these back in my bloody Instagram builder days was to have them on top of some polished andesite like this, but I do want to try something a little bit different. Let's do away with the polished andesite and let's just stick with our spruce slabs here. Now I'm wanting something that incorporates. Oh, no, you know what? We're gonna bring this divider back. This actually keeps us building in this even number, and it's a very confined space as well, which is kind of challenging, but I like it. So I think on this side, let's dedicate this entirely to our brewing stands. So something like this and like this, just to utilize the space as like efficiently as possible. And then on this left side, we can get a little bit more decorative. I feel like up at the top, it would be kind of cool to have like maybe an assortment of chests and barrels like that. And then down at the bottom could be maybe our water sources. We could get a cauldron. We could also get a trap door. We can have two like this. I would do one there, but it connects up and it just kind of looks weird. So, but I mean, it is still gonna look weird as well. You know, once we get our water in here, there's just kind of water like that. So maybe what we could do is instead change this to a full block just so that our water doesn't look as weird. We can get water in there as well. And once again, I did really want to incorporate some shelves. So we could definitely get them added maybe here. And these could just have some very common ingredients like, I don't know, maybe we get some fermented spider eyes and then some nether warts, blaze powder. And then maybe we could fill that with another chest that does open, which is sweet. And then I think right there is the perfect spot for a little baby painting. Yeah, dude. Oh, I mean, I don't really like how dense this brewing area is. Maybe let's get rid of the corner ones and let's see how some leaves would look here. Just as a full stripagus gallipagus up there. Yeah, I like that. I feel like that is quite nice. We could definitely get a sign maybe added there. Maybe even a trapdoor to make this a little bit more symmetrical. And yeah, dude, I think that is quite literally it. That's a nice little compact brewing area. All right, and those are my 5 primarily functional but still aesthetic interiors. I think I'm gonna do these last 5 as a bit of a time lapse because this video is getting quite long, and I might get these as primarily aesthetic things, like maybe stuff like a kitchen, library, and I haven't thought that far ahead yet. So let's get into the time lapse. Heading into the library next, I simply filled the place with a bunch of bookshelves, added a little ladder to reach the top ones, and filled the area out with plenty of details. Over at the kitchen, I had a bit of a hard time making this one look as good. Honestly, still not too happy with the final product here. I then tried my hands at an armory, getting some armor stands of course, and some shelves displaying various items. Next, it was onto a bit of a map room where I also displayed a bunch of achievement type items to decorate the space. And to finish up, I built one of my favorite types of interiors, a blacksmith, getting an anvil, dunking buckets, and plenty of other details. Oh, alright dude, that is just about going to complete the 100 builds. Oh my goodness, this took a very long time to do. But dude, this area is looking awesome with all the different builds scattered around. And I had so much fun building this, so please be sure to leave your ideas for other 100 like builds that I could do, you know? As always, if you want to download this world for yourself and explore these builds, use them for, you know, in your own builds or whatever kind of purpose you want, the download will be up on my Patreon. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you in the next video.